Okay. Erev Tov, everyone. So I wanted to share with you this evening an interesting halacha in Shulchan Aruch. It's one of those cases where the Shulchan Aruch paskins a certain way and all the Achronim disagree. It's not that uncommon. We find it fairly often. But you'll see why I'm talking about it now and why it's relevant to Purim and why it's particularly relevant to this Purim. We'll explain. I'm sure you'll figure it out in a moment. But essentially, Shulchan Aruch, towards the end of Hilchot Tefillah, is a siman kufchet, mi shelo yitpalel lesibat ta'ut or ones over mezid. Right? A very long and complicated siman. What happens if we make mistakes in Tefillah? Right? You meant to say Ya'aleh v'yavo and you forget to say it, or you meant to say V'tein talu bracha, etc. So generally speaking, we talk about what happens if I was meant to add an addition into Tefillah and I forgot to add in the addition. Sometimes I have to go back, sometimes I don't go back, right? But what if it's the other way around? What if a person added in something to Tefillah which you weren't meant to add in, right? So it's one thing if I forgot to say Ya'aleh v'yavo when it's Rosh Chodesh, but let's say it was, it was one day Rosh Chodesh, and I thought it was 2 days Rosh Chodesh. So I come to Shul and I daven my Shemona Esrei and I say Ya'aleh v'yavo and everything, and then the Chazan does and I'm waiting for Hallel and Hallel doesn't come, and then I realize, oh, actually, it's not, what? If you call it out, you're okay, because somebody will say, no, you idiot, it's not, yesterday was Rosh Chodesh. Okay. But so what happened? So the Shulchan Aruch says as follows. So this is the end of Siman Kufchet, Yud Bet. He says, HaTo'eh u'mazkir me'ora shar yamim b'tfilah shelo bizmana, a person who accidentally mentions, right, me'ena menorah, Ya'aleh v'yavo, al nisim, whatever, when it is not meant to be part of the tefillah, right, shelo bizmana, lo have hafsaka. That is not considered a hefsek. Okay, so I don't have to go back. Again, I'm not talking now about Tfilat Geshem, etc. Those are different rules. But he says, lo have hafsaka. As Rama miuim niskal sheta'ah posek afilu be'emsa bracha. Okay, he says, Rama says, if you realize that you said it, you're saying it, you're not meant to say it, so you should stop, even if it's in the middle of the bracha. Okay, so that's a Shulchan Aruch. It's not a hefsek. You don't have to go. You don't have to go back. So here comes the Mishnah Berurah. And he writes as follows. First of all, Shelo Bizmana explains what's the case. Kegon, Shezkir Ya'aleh v'yavo Shelo Rosh Chodesh v'Chol HaMoed. Right, it wasn't Rosh Chodesh or Chol HaMoed, and you said Ya'aleh v'yavo. Or Sheosif Shel Shabbat v'Yom Tov b'Chol v'Chai Gavna. Right, you said the Tefillah of Shabbat or of Yom Tov on a weekday, etc. V'nizkar lachar shegmar habracha or Korat Tefillah. You remember after you've said the bracha all the Tefillah. By the way, we learned this once. Let's say on Shabbat. Right, so I'm davening the Amidah of Shabbat. We still call it Shemona Esrei, even though it's not actually Shemona Esrei. But we're davening the Amidah of Shabbat, and I said the first three brachot are the same, and then I start saying Atachonin Adam Dat, Ashivenu, Slach Lanu, etc. And halfway through, realize, normally it happens when you start beating yourself on the chest, right? And nobody else is, what's going on. So the halacha is that on Shabbat, because intrinsically, we could have said the weekday Shemona Esrei on Shabbat. We have to say Mein Amra, we have to mention Shabbat. We could have said the weekday, but Chachamim didn't want us to have the tircha of going through all the different brachot and all the different requests. It's one reason. So therefore, we don't say it. But therefore, that is not a hefsek. And even to the extent it's brought down halacha that if you remember in the middle of a bracha, whichever bracha, let's say you're saying Shemona Esrei, and you're halfway through Hashiveinu Yerushalayim, whatever. You realize once you've already started the bracha, so you still finish the bracha. You still finish the bracha that you're on, and then you go back to the tefillah of Shabbat. Okay, but yeah, again, our case is, for example, if it's on a weekday and you say Shabbat, it's a bracha, it's not shayach at all. So the Shulchan Aruch said that's not considered a hefsek. Comes the Mishnah Berurah now, and he says, Lo have hafsaka. What does it mean that it's a hafsaka? That you would have to go back to the beginning of that bracha, or in certain cases, go back to the beginning of tefillah if you'd already finished. Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch said you don't have to do that. But says the Mishnah Berurah, Rov Achronim, the majority of the Achronim after the Shulchan Aruch, Chokim psak zeh. We just usverlu de lo adif zeh mimefsik besicha beemtza tefillah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you stop in the middle of your tefillah and you start having a conversation with the person next to you, okay, or you start talking about things that are not part of the tefillah, that's a hefsek. You have to go back. You have to start again. So why should it be any different? You weren't having a conversation with somebody else, but you were saying things that are completely irrelevant to the tefillah. And he quotes, that's what the Shulchan Aruch said earlier, that would be the case of just a sicha, that you'd have to go back. Okay, we can make a svara. We can understand the Shulchan Aruch. We can say there's a difference between you don't have the intent that it's part of tefillah versus you have the intent that it's part of tefillah. You made a mistake. Okay, but anyway. But now he brings a very interesting distinction as well. So he says like this. Okay, he goes through. He says if it's one of the first three brachot or one of the last three brachot, those are a complete unit. So you have to go back to the beginning of that set, etc. And then he says like this: "Gam b'derech hachaim u'v'chayei adam satmu ladina k'motam." Okay, the derech hachaim and the chayei adam, two of the very significant poskim, say the same as the Mishnah Berurah. Vayen b'derech hachaim sheosif od v'katav. Zahanei mile imizkir davar she'en shayach loto hayom. Says, what are we talking about? That you added in something to tefillah, that you would have to go back and repeat the tefillah. He says that is when it's something that's completely irrelevant to the day that's in question. For example, kegon sheomer zochreinu v'kotvenu, the ein zman ktivayom. Right, this is right. For 10 days, you're saying zochreinu l'chaim, kotvenu b'sefer chaim. So after Yom Kippur, you'll say you still say zochreinu. Okay, so you'll tell me after Yom Kippur until Hoshana Rabbah, it's still relevant. Okay, but let's say halfway through the year, let's say on Purim, a person's davening in the Manginah of Yom Kippur, right, and they think, oh, whatever this place say, zochreinu l'chaim. That you can't. That's completely irrelevant. It's incorrect. According to this, you would have to go back and daven again. The ein zman ktivayom. This is not the time of the. This is not the time of that. Okay, according to Chasidim, maybe, whatever. If you said Yalev Yavo, and you continued, you said past Yom Rosh HaChodesh Hazeh, but it's not Rosh Chodesh. So you've said something that's completely irrelevant, it's inaccurate, it's false, you can't, that doesn't count as part of tefillah. Shu sheker muchlat. You can't lie in your tefillah. Shayom eino Rosh Chodesh. So that, according to the Chayei Adam and the Chaim and the Mishnah Berurah and the Achronim, if you say something, you have an addition in your tefillah that's really not relevant, it's completely incorrect, you would have to now go back. Aval, im lo amar sheker. However, if you did not say complete sheker, right? Kegon she'amar zochreinu l'chaim v'lo amar v'chotvenu. So you just added in zochreinu l'chaim. You didn't say kotvenu l'chaim tovim. So now it's not zochreinu l'chaim. That's relevant anytime. Okay, you shouldn't have said it, but it's fine. It's not sheker. Or havdalah b'chonei nadat. You were davening Maariv and you said you added in tachon and tanu. There's nothing in those words that's intrinsic to the certain day. We're only meant to say it at Motzei Shabbat, but beseder. You didn't say any sheker. Shemazkir ma shechananu Hashem yitbarach lev lavinu lavdil. You're just mentioning the fact that Hashem gave you the ability to distinguish. Beseder. זה שייך בכל השנה לתת תודה להשם יתברך שחלק לו לב להבין ומדע לידע. It's relevant all through the year to thank Hashem for giving us a discerning heart. Okay? או שאמר יעלב יבוא עד ביום ראש החודש הזה. Or if you had added in יעלב יבוא, but you had not said ביום ראש החודש הזה, just said יעלב יבוא ויגיע ויראה ותחזינה עינינו. Right? בסדר. That's not a hefsek.
Assuming that you say that Yalav Yava when it's not Yalav Yava here, but it's still in America because we're 7 hours ahead. So what?
No.
You can't get away with that?
No, you can't get away with that. But we're going to see. We're going to see in a moment what you maybe can or can't get away with. So he says that lo ave sheker akem osif tfilato. You're just adding to your tefillah. And even though we don't add in the first three brachot and the final three brachot, the middle ones you could, but the first and last you wouldn't. Nonetheless, that is not like speaking words that are irrelevant to tefillah, and that would be okay. All right. So why are we discussing all of this? So this becomes very, very relevant this year in particular, because we mentioned already we have the question of Al Nisim. Al Nisim on Purim. Now, normally, there's just one day on which to add in Al Nisim. There's one day of Purim, whether you're in the Prazim, or the Mukafim, whatever. You have the day of Purim, and that's the day you say Al Nisim V'zeh. This year, it comes out very, very strange. We have this Purim Mishulash. Right? So all the mitzvot of Purim, the 4 mitzvot, we do two on Friday, and we do 2 on Sunday, and we don't say Al Nisim on either of those days. We only say Al Nisim on Shabbos. Right? That's the time we're meant to. So the question is, one question would be, what if a person forgot to say Al Nisim on Shabbos? The question which might even be more likely is, what if a person forgot not to say Al Nisim, right, on Friday or on Sunday? Friday is the day when you're reading the Megillah, you're in shul and everybody's wearing their hats and whatever it is, and you're davening, so you could say Al Nisim, you think it's Purim. You're like, oh, hang on. This is that strange thing that happens once every 20 years, that we read the Megillah without it. What if you get to you're at the Purim Surah and you're benching after the Purim Surah and you say Ala Nisim? It's Purim Surah. Obviously, you say Ala Nisim, right? No, you don't. So that's the question. That's our question. What happens? So according to this, what would we say? According to this, if a person said Ala Nisim when they were not meant to say Ala Nisim, based on the Mishnah Brura, we would say like this: if we say it's something that is sheker muchlat, if it's something that's completely irrelevant to the day, so then that would be a hefsek, and then you would have to go back and you'd have to daven again. But if it's still shayach, if it's still appropriate, so we could say. So your question wasn't so far fetched, right? If we say that, but here there would be a distinction between Friday and Sunday, right? Shabbos we definitely have to say Ala Nisim, but we could say like this: on Friday, which is not yet Purim for us in Yerushalayim, but it's Purim everywhere else in the world. So it is Yudalid, it is Purim. So even though I'm not meant to say Ala Nisim, but if I did say Ala Nisim b'diavad, can I say that it's a sheker muchlat? Can I say that it's not relevant to today? Of course it's relevant. This is the day that it's Purim for me. And therefore we would say that b'diavad, if you said Ala Nisim, don't say Ala Nisim when you come to hear the Megillah this year. Right? This is the 1 year the rabbi will tell you not to say Ala Nisim when you come to hear the Megillah. But if a person was to say Ala Nisim on Thursday night, Friday, but that would not be considered a hefsek. You don't have to go back to the hang on. But now that's your dalid. What about on Sunday at the Surah where we daven? So Sunday is Tet Zayin. Tet Zayin Adar is not Purim for anybody. It's only because it works out at Purim Mishulash and the mitzvot themselves are postponed, and therefore we end up having the Surah a day later. But it's not actually Purim. It's not Purim for anybody. So if I say Bayamim Ha'em B'Zman Hazeh, where I'm talking about Bimei Mordechai, etc., it didn't happen today. Today's it's the wrong time. That's one perspective. There is another perspective that says when we say Bayamim Ha'em B'Zman Hazeh, we don't say Bayamim Ha'em B'Yom Hazeh. We say Bayamim Ha'em B'Zman Hazeh at this time. This time refers to the whole month. So basically, we have a machloket, right? You all guessed it. We have regarding if one said on Sunday, if one said b'diavad, if one said Ala Nisim. So between the Achronei Zmanenu, there are those who say that we relate to right Ala Nis Bayim members Manazet according to the whole month, and therefore even if you said Ala Nisim, that's fine. But that's Rav Chaim Sonnenfeld. He says that. There are others, Kudat El-Azhar, and others who say no, that this is not the day that is Purim, and therefore one should not, and therefore one would have to go back and repeat it again. So bottom line is, Ala Nisim should be said on, yeah.
What is the stature of all these different opinions? What is the relevance of them? I mean, everybody has to have different opinions, but where is this a standing of these? What, you know what I mean? How can a person behave based on all these so-called different opinions, and nothing is completely
okay? So it's a good question, and it's a long discussion, far more than we have. They were able to get into the next 30 seconds, unfortunately. But I'll say like this: over here, we're dealing with the guys. You have different opinions, so there'll be a difference between the Katchila and B'diavad. Yeah, we're talking about contemporary poskim. When I say there are two opinions, for example, we're talking about contemporary poskim, Achronei Zmanenu, and therefore I say Rav. Therefore, those who follow the one opinion should do this, and those who follow that opinion, these are equal. These are two opinions of equal stature. It's not like if we have Tanaim, we have Amoraim, we have Rishonim, we have Achronim, but that's a far greater discussion about the halachic system. We don't have time to go into now. But
decide what we want to do.
So I'm telling you what you got to do. Okay, we have to finish because we have to get to Maariv. We can discuss later. But bottom line is, on Shabbat, not this Shabbat, next Shabbat, we say Ala Nisim in davening and in benching. The Friday before, we should not say Ala Nisim. But if you said Ala Nisim, don't worry, it's not b'diavad, it's not a hefsek. On Sunday, you should also not say Ala Nisim. But if you did say Ala Nisim, so then we have a difference of opinion whether it is a hefsek or not. Rabbi Hanania ben Akash, Omer, Tzakadosh Baruch Hu, Zakot Yisrael, Yifrach B'Aleim Tom Mitzvot.